to today's 7 on Sunday. I'm really excited about this week's theme because this is one of the ones that I like suggested, but I didn't think it was going to happen like so quickly because it is a very generic topic to talk about standalones, to talk about series or duologies or whatnot. But I really do think that when we get a standalone, it's really great because we get the whole entire story in that one book. And I actually am going to kind of make this more of a like niche topic by only talking about fantasy standalones because I feel like they're much rarer, and in general contemporaries are all standalones. There is duologies and trilogies of contemporary novels, but I find that they're always either companion series or they're standalones and they all follow the one basic story. But as I said, standalones in fantasy are a lot rarer because there is not that many books that can actually do a whole entire world and story and plot just in the one. So when it happens, it really is a feat. And yes, some books don't do it very well, but I'm excited to get into this list because these are all books that I highly recommend picking up because they're so good. Of course, the first book I'm going to talk about is my true love, The Night Circus by Erin Morgenster. So this is an amazing standalone, and if you still haven't read it, I don't know what you're doing, but you need to pick up this book. Like, if it's on your TBR or you've been thinking about it, please read it. Like, it is seriously my #1 favorite book. Like, I can legit say in all honesty that I have a favorite book, but I just love how magical this book is and how wonderful the writing is and the characters and the story and the flow of it is so good, and I just, oh, I love it with my whole entire heart. And I even loved it after I reread it, and it was just such a fun time. But I just think the love story is just so pure at its essence, and I just love the circus. And since I've read this book, I've wanted to go to a circus and there hasn't been any, and I'm so sad. But it's so good, and I love it so much. Please read it. Next, I want to talk about To Best the Boys by Merriweather, and I literally don't talk about this book much. Like, I should talk about it more often because this was a really good read. I listened to it like 2 years ago and it was such a fun time, and I just think this is a great standalone, and it's all about, you know, girl power, and she's gonna go into this competition and she's gonna beat all the dudes in there because they're all dumbasses except for the one that's like the nice one. But it was just a really fun time and a just really easy book to get into. Like, you didn't really have to think that much about it, but it was just like the whole idea of them being in this like massive maze, like you can see it on the cover. It was the best part of the book, but I really did appreciate this, and I appreciated the friendships that she made along the way and the whole point of why everyone was trying to get through the maze and win. It was just a really sweet book. Like, I would say it wasn't that impactful, but it was a very easy to read book and very fun time. Next, I want to talk about Romanov by Nadine, Brandy. So this is a book that I highly recommend because it's an Anastasia retelling, and even though this story goes very differently than the actual story, even though everything is quite historical, there is a lot of like magical elements that are like very different than you would expect, I'd say. But I really enjoyed this book, and I would highly recommend listening to this one on audio. I really like it because the way that they do it is when they're speaking, they're talking Russian, but every other bit of text is in American, which is funny. But I really like the way that it really like gets the emotion and the tone of the story. But I just love anything to do with the Anastasia retellings that get written, so I will read any of them. But I especially loved this one, and I just really need to read Forks, which is the other book that this author's written. So I gotta get on that. Next, I want to talk about Four Dead Queens by Ashrae Schulte, and this is again another one of my favorites. Like, it's the Night Circus, and then I have a whole group of like favorites that are underneath it. But I love this book so much, and I was so addicted to knowing what was going to happen because there were so many plot points and secrets, and like every character had different secrets and different shit was going on, and some things were shocking me and other things were quite easy to know. But I just felt like this was such a good read for just how invested you get into the story, because I do think it's a very unique system that there's 4 queens that all rule over different parts of society, and they never leave the castle that they're in. They just chill there for their whole entire lives, which is another kind of weird thing. But I just really liked it, and I really like the characters, and I really do need to read her other book, The Vanishing Deep. I've had it on my TBR for so long, and that's another standalone that I'm sure is going to be really good, but I just highly recommend this. This is definitely a great read if you want to get shocked. I'm going to also mention An Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson, because this is again another quite simple and easy book to read, but if you want to have some more fae in your life, pick it up because it's really fun. I liked the king dude, like I can't remember his name, but I really liked him for the fact that he was so proper and prim all the time, and there were so many human things that he just wasn't accustomed to, that he'd just be like, oh, the horror. Like if he was bleeding out and dying, dying, he was more horrid about his clothes getting dirty than the fact that he was nearly dying. Like, there were so many times, but I'm just like, dude, there is something wrong with you, but I kind of love you. And I just think that the relationship was really nice, and yes, it is a bit insta-lovey, but this is a very short book and a very fun time, so give it a go. The next book I'm going to mention is Tequila Kingdom by Alexandra Christo. This is a Little Mermaid retelling, and I think it was done very well by, instead of making her a mermaid, she was a siren, and she goes after Prince's hearts. But I love the fact that I think she was captured, and then there's a pirate on the ship that hates sirens, and then she's there and she hates pirates, and then they slowly start to get to know each other and to like each other, and like obviously a bond like forms there. But I love retellings of The Little Mermaid because I feel like they vary so differently. Like, yes, there's always going to be that mermaid element and the ocean element, but I just think this book was done really, really well, and it really suited a standalone. Like, the story was just enough that I didn't need more, which I really appreciated as well. And the last book I'm going to mention today is Warrior of the Wild by Trisha Levinsales. Her other standalone is The Shadows Between Us, and I could have also mentioned that, but I wanted to mention her book that I don't normally mention because this is a very like Viking feeling story, and it was very fun. But basically it's like the main character is the daughter of the chief in her village, and she has to do this trial so that she can become like the next chief, and then something goes wrong, so then she's like banished from the village with this task that she has to complete, which is to kill the monster that's like trying to kill everyone. And basically she's out there in the forest trying to figure this out, and then she meets two other boys that have been banished, and they have different tasks to complete as well, and they become friends and they start to help each other out. There's a lot of really good friendships in this book, and like, yes, there is a love story like most books ever, but I really enjoyed the friendship aspect, and I liked that there was all these magical elements. And again, it just sat well as a standalone. It didn't need to have more, it didn't need to have less, and it was a good story. Well guys, that is all for today's video of talking about standalones. This was a really fun one to do. Like, again, there's so many different standalones that I could say of all different degrees, but I highly recommend these 7 that I've mentioned today because they were all amazing stories. I'm just so glad that these are all books that I've gotten the privilege of knowing though, because if they were just sitting on my TBR, I wouldn't know the magic that they possess, and that is why unhauling books are so hard. Because what if it's a book that you could have potentially loved, but then you're like, ain't got no time for that? Going on a tangent. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.